we had guitar with us. We prayed worship. We sing worship. We prayed. We read Bibles.
That is Dasha Andrienko, a Ukrainian and former Radnor resident who awoke 2 weeks ago to the sound of rockets and bombs striking the city she once called home. From West Ukraine, she speaks with the local student media about how her faith in God and the heroic actions of so many others are helping her get through this horrific ordeal.
First, I want to begin by saying that on behalf of Cabrini University and the Loquitur student media, that we are all praying for your safety and your country's safety. And we want to tell your story, and we want to let you know that your voice will be heard. I know you are in a very dangerous place right now, so we don't want to take too much of your time. But please, can you describe the journey that you've been on these last 2 weeks?
My name is Dasha, and I'm from Kharkiv, East Ukraine. And I even don't remember the dates anymore, and like the days of the week, but when the war started, it was 5 a.m. in the morning. I like the previous day before the war started, everybody been like concerned because we've been hearing it on news for a long time, and somehow we got almost like immune system, like you hear it, you keep on living, you pray, you hope that nothing will happen, because it would be like everybody thought that it would be absolutely crazy to actually start the war with all the sanctions that Russia would get. So a lot of Ukrainians being still on the safe side, thinking that it's all just like informational propaganda of Putin, and that he will not start it. But also a lot of people lived in fear or anxiety of like, what if, like what do we do, where we go. So a lot of, I know that people have been advised to have their documents together, to have their emergency backpack ready if needed to go. So when I woke up at 5 in the morning with bombing sound that I never like heard in my life, and it does sound like fireworks. And I got to my window and I saw the cloud of smoke, like further away from my house, but in the seen distance. And it's been bombing for, I don't know, 5, 7, or 10 minutes, like with the splashes of like light and everything. And you understand at 5 a.m. that it's not the fireworks, and that it's actually real. So I did text to my family and to my friends, and everybody, like we have the chat at the apartment building where we live, and everybody's like, hey, like it's the war, like it started. So I prayed. I didn't panic because I know like I have this like deep assurance that my life is in God's hand, but I need to do something, right? So I was like, okay, like what do I do next? So I did pack like my documents. I did pack emergency backpack, and then it was quiet for some time. But on the news, it showed that couple cities been bombed at the same time at different places. And I live across the street from the church where I go in Kharkiv. So we went to the church and asked if there's any help needed to prepare the space, if the people will come, or if the people will need shelter or hiding place. And since the bombing along the days keep going, and everybody advised that you need to go to the bomb shelter wherever it is, like in the like first floors or underground. But a lot of apartment buildings, they have this first floor, but it's never been made for actually a bomb shelter, so it doesn't have emergency exit. And they said, well, maybe it's not too safe if one exit is closed, like there is no way out. So well, we decided to stay in church, and for the next 7 days we stayed there are other people came with families, with small kids, some of our friends and some of the neighbors of the people from the church who ask like, we don't know where to go, like we're scared. So we had around 80 to 100 people staying in the church. And
family among them? Was your family with you?
My family lives like half an hour away from me, but lately we don't have a car. Like we live in the big city, so it's in Ukraine it's okay that a lot of people don't have a car. And since we didn't know how long it will go, how bad it will go, so they're like, well, we'll stay at home, because they also say that you don't need to do like stupid moves of running around, like either like you need to know where you're going, or you should stay home and like get supplies, get drinking water, get some food. So their strategy was okay, like, and my mom had some back problems, so they were not sure whether they should go. um but we like stayed in touch all the time of asking like, how are you, like is everything's fine, how is, like, is it quiet there? So it's not far away from me, but it's not walking distance. It was not safe to walk, and at the point, like it was almost impossible to get the taxi cab, and without car, and with car it wasn't even safe, because you don't know where the shooting will gonna go or the bombing will gonna go. So they're like, okay, like we're not gonna risk of like out, like we will stay and wait, and how it's gonna be. So we're really thankful, like the church have the underground spacing. So we brought, from the first day we brought mattresses there. We stayed on the first floor, but then the air alarm goes off, so they somehow look for aircrafts and rockets and whatever in the sky going. So then the whole city have the alarm system of, hey, everybody, you need to go in the bomb shelter. And then also when you hear bombing and explosions not far away from you, you know that you need to stay somewhere safe. So for the next 7 days, we stayed in church, and it was going up and down bomb shelter, going up trying to get some food, going down to the bomb shelter, then stayed some nights just sleeping in the bomb shelter. With it was like ground, just fresh ground, fresh soil. So it's not like flooring or anything there, or not a concrete. And then on the soil we put it some banners and some material, and then on this material we put it mattresses. So it was like 80 people sleeping just on like huge like packed space of mattresses. And one of the girls, I met her for the first time in my life. She's also from our church, but I haven't met her before. And we shared mattress for the next week, hiding in the bomb shelter. And then when I meet people, they're like, hey, like, how do you know Katya? Like, is it your like good old friend? And I'm like, yeah, I know her for 1 week, sharing one mattress, hiding in the bomb shelter.
When did you know you had to leave?
We have administrator in the church who is a military in the past. So he was in charge of informing everybody and staying as a group, because they're also like, at the first days, I think it was just by hearing if the bombing was going close, and he would like turn on the alarm in the church, and we knew that okay, if alarm is going, we all going downstairs. So it was just like listening to the one in charge and obeying the instructions. And praise God that nobody panicked. So we came together, and it's always so good to see somebody, or see somebody who's like accepting and supportive and encouraging. And a lot of families like with little kids, and being together as a church, we had guitar with us, we prayed worship, we sing worship, we prayed, we read Bible. So it was like the bomb shelter activity. The bomb is going, we're going down, we're reading like we read some psalms that David wrote, And I love Psalms because they're the prayers to God in all kind of like distress, anxiety. He says like all my enemies surround me and it looks like there is no way out. Like I'm fearing, I'm desperate, I have no hope. And then like all his, so it's like you see that even godly people, even they can go through hardships and they can go through um like just threats to their lives, or grieving or pain, and then almost all the psalms they keep on going like, but I put my hope in God.
Sitting right here with me is the lead reporter on this story. Her name is Lachey Smith, and she's going to ask a few questions, and then a couple of others will as well.
I know this might be hard, but can you share some stories of others and the risks that they are taking to get out of the country and safeguard their families?
We stayed a week in the church, and when the bombing was real bad, and then I don't know, I think you saw on news that Kharkiv is one of the cities that been severely destroyed, like our downtown, historical buildings, apartment buildings. So after a week, we decided to go to West Ukraine. And actually, the day I left, the next day, our church got bombed and part of the like windows got out. Like nobody injured, but all of the cars, the windows been broken. So they also evacuated all the church by the bus to bring it to Dnieper and then to West Ukraine. And going on the train, it's crazy. The train station is absolutely packed. We took a train of 15 hours standing, packed, shoulder to shoulder with other people. And there was enough room to sit, but take turns of sitting on the floor in the hallway of the train. So everybody tried, like from these hot spots, Kiev, Kharkiv, other cities that have been bombed, people trying to escape to safer places, which is West Ukraine. And then from West Ukraine, we have buses that transfer people like a lot to Poland or to Romania, and other countries. So right now in West Ukraine, I'm in the YWAM base, Youth with a Mission, who actually evacuates people from Kiev and also evacuate people here by bus out of the country. So it's safer place to be. It's no bombing right now, praise God, and also being able to help my country while everybody's going through this tragedy. So I see every day and I hear on the phone every day the stories of people escaping or their house being totally destroyed, or seeing dads who's placing their families in the bus and the kids cry and say goodbye and they don't know when they will be able to meet again. So from my close friends and family, they have not been injured, but my parents arrived just today in the morning by train, and my mom's aunt, her apartment building across the street being bombed 2 days ago, and in her apartment buildings the windows shattered too. So that was like the turning point. Okay, like I cannot stay here any longer. So a lot of people, and to get to the train station, it's also not only bombing but shooting through. Like I was really praying for safety and God's protection when my parents been taking a taxi cab to the train station, because you don't know like wherever it can start and whatever it can happen. And also with train, a couple of days ago, one of the train board members been shot and killed during the shooting at the train while transporting people. So it's all over. Like when people leave their houses and try to move out, it's always a risk. So that's one of the reasons why my parents didn't want to go to West Ukraine right away, because it's the risk to get out of your house. And you kind of need to wait of this in between time when it's maybe calmer, maybe less bombing, and just make the way out. But some regions, I think, as you heard, while people evacuated, they've been shot in. Like today on news, people who's been in the line to buy bread outside, like more than 10 people got killed. like the maternity hospital in Mariupol been shot, schools been shot, like so, like all over the country. It's like huge tragedy. It's just unbelievable, unbearable. And we're trying yet to stay in touch with our friends, family, whoever we know, to encourage, support, pray. Um, yeah.
Well,
So
I'm so glad to hear that your parents are okay. And
yeah.
I understand after talking to one of your friends from Cabrini, she was very relieved to hear that you were all right too, and she said that you were offered a refuge to leave the country and stay somewhere else, but that you were intent on staying there.
What are some of the challenges that you are up against?
So I didn't want just to flee from the country if I can be useful here. And for the first couple days, I think one of the challenges that you need to be super flexible and being ready to figure out things as you go. Because when we came, they didn't really have a call center. It was just one person taking calls, but they had hotline, and you needed to receive all the calls to place people on buses. And almost every single day, the system got changed. The way we do it got changed. And sometimes we've been on the phone till 3 a.m. and then from 6 a.m. And then in between, we would get single calls. So it was sometimes like 24/7, just being on the phone, and being ready to be flexible of any changes and everything we need to do. So I'm personally not going to rescue people like by driving vans, but we have, for example, amazing stories. One of the girl from Finland, she is she used to be a missionary here before war, and she was out in Europe with her family. And when the war started, she's like, my heart is for Ukraine. I cannot stay just watching the news. So she ran the van, like she's like, I think 25 years old. Finnish girl ran the van from Germany with like packed full with aid and medical stuff, mattresses, dropped it off at West Ukraine and ran the van to Kiev to evacuate.
I lost you for a second. I'll continue.
Yeah, I love her heart of like being able to live the comfortable life and actually come here, not being stuck here because she don't have a choice, but make a choice to come here to help.
Are there any other heartwarming stories or hopeful stories like that that get you through each day?
Well, we hear all the time about people who are heroes. Like I know personally two guys who have families and small kids. One of them have a girl 2 months old, and another guy have a boy 6 months old. They brought their wives and kids to the West Ukraine, and right now they are driving car to evacuate people from Kiev and around Kiev. So they are like risking their lives, and they're young people, they're under 30, having their loved ones away from them, but risking life to save other lives.
What are some of the scariest or most frightening moments you've endured so far?
I try personally not to overthink, because it's always like your mind is always attacking, like what's next, what if, what will, how, and everything. So I think that it's not because I'm brave or like smart or I figured it out. I think it's by God's grace. I feel at some point, at some time, like my emotions are numbed. So I'm not panicking. I'm not like crying nonstop, even though it's like so heartbreaking. I think it's just by God's grace, like we live one day at a time and moving forward, trusting God, helping people, doing what we can. Um, so I think one of the like not scary but kind of hard moments was being going from church to train station by taxi cab and not knowing if it's going to be shooting, and then being on the train station, it's been bombing not far away, so the window's been shaken, And at the train station, it's very like vulnerable place because it's like crowded, it's tons of people. And since they don't care about anything, it's not only military objects, right? So it's like, well, I don't know if they're gonna bomb the train station. It's like tons of people here. So it's been a little bit like concerning being like out there in the city and not knowing if we make it to West Ukraine or how we make it or if it's going to be safe.
And our staff of journalists, we have about 30 students, and there's about 5 in the room right now that are going to be part of the story, and hopefully reporting and telling the story of your journey as an ongoing story. So we don't want this to be the last time we speak. But I know that he has, Ryan here has a question for you as well.
So hi, my name is Ryan. So outside of being a journalist here at Cabrini, I also work with the Western media for one of our organizations here in our city. So I was just curious, what are we not hearing on the mainstream Western media that you feel like needs to be told about what's going on in Ukraine?
I would tell you honestly that I'm not following the whole flow of news because it's impossible and it's hard. And for the first like 1, 2, 3 days, everybody been sucked in news. And when you're 24/7 and it happening around you and you're reading it all the time, it's like not healthy. So we tried to actually maybe not being updated with every single thing that they're posting. And also I'm reading Ukrainian news, and I mean, I do have like Associated Press newsletter, like American news, but honestly, just I'm not following everything. I think one of the things that I see inside of my country from my perspective that I love how people are coming together and helping each other no matter what, and how they risking their lives, just like ordinary people, like driving, food, medication. So, and I'm not honestly like the very political person, so I cannot tell you like the perspectives of this party and what would happen, and that's what need to be said. Not really. So I'm very glad that I think like one of the big things, because Ukraine and Russia looked very much similar. We have similar food, we have similar culture. I personally speak Russian language because I'm from eastern part of Ukraine, so that's my mother language. But I can speak Ukrainian, so here I'm trying to practice my Ukrainian. So it's similar languages. But at the course of history right now, you can see the big difference of the spirit of Ukrainians who always wanted to be a free nation, who always wanted to live independently. And Russians who are afraid to speak their mind, who are afraid to post on social media because they have a dictator, because they say, oh, like my word doesn't matter, or like, what can I do? And here, like Ukrainians with their bare hands stopping the tanks and stopping the like people with guns, like they are willing to lay their lives for the freedom, for their country, for their future, and not stay silent of saying, oh, I can't do anything. So I think that's kind of like the big difference. Well, and we pray that our hearts would not be in hate for the people, because with the hate you can't like do anything. And even with people with whom I personally been disappointed, who are like bloggers or pastors, and I was thinking like, well, you like lead thousands of people, like why don't you speak up? But I mean, everybody will give record to God for their own life, for their own position or their own choices. So I personally try not to be judgmental or hard-hearted, because in these circumstances we need to love more, forgive more, and move forward, help with whatever you can.
You have such a beautiful message to share. So thank you. I know that the Lachey had a couple of other questions. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Absolutely.
And we won't take too much more of your time. But you
don't worry, like I have free evenings, so ask whatever you want today. It's okay.
What would you like the people to know here in the Cabrini area about what's happening on the ground now and about how we here can help?
We really appreciate prayers, because sometimes people say that, well, like, how can we help? But the prayer is the help. I believe that, like, we do have like this strength and support. Um, and with physical needs, I think, like, right here where I'm at with Youth with a Mission, I think our biggest need is right now is the gas for transportation, because the gas is leveled up in the price. We do get medical supplies, clothes, sleeping bags, food from other countries nearby, like from Poland and from Romania. So we get cars with that. But I think, like, I was asking about the needs because I also have a lot of friends in US and in Europe. So I think the main need is the gas for transporting people in the Ukraine, out of the war zone, to the safer places, and also out of the country. Because, like, Ternopil, West Ukraine, it's like temporary place. We cannot hold here thousands of people. So we host people, like with YWAM, we host around 100 people per night. That's the capacity. It's also cost around $5 to cover expenses for one person, like meals and water and food. And then we try to, we have buses, and people don't have money. So it's buses also been covered with donations of people and organizations who are partnering, who's trying to help. So people in Ukraine can take a free bus to get out of the country, to get help in the nearby countries or in Europe or elsewhere. So I think that's like the biggest need right now, the expenses for people who stay here. But it's 1, 2, or 3 nights, and then the expenses to drive people here and out of the country.
And, what about you? How long do you plan to stay there? At some point, are you thinking about, getting out to Poland or moving out, because you're still very much in a danger zone? What is your next step?
So I have a boyfriend in Canada and I have Canadian visa. So I could fly out like right away, but I didn't want to leave without even doing anything. So right now I'm very happy that my parents are in safer place. So I don't feel like they're under bombing anymore. And I also don't want to sit without doing anything. So right now we have bigger team and more volunteers come. So it's more help than we had 2 weeks ago. So I want to be open whether if I need it here to stay here longer, but also I'm open to, in future, I think my step would be to go to Canada rather than other European countries. And also because they have also program that you can have, you can work. So it's not like refugee status. You can have the visitor visa and start working right away, which would be a much help, like get finances and like support my family, support my country. Because in Ukraine right now, I don't think that I can search for a job here. So it's also like I have not decided when I'm going or how it's gonna be, but I'm honest with you. That's my thoughts, and we'll see. Yeah.
Again, we are so sorry for all of your suffering, and we hope that this war comes to an end very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Thank
will
you.
continue to follow up with you, praying for you and listening and looking out for any message you have to share. So we're here reporting for the Loquitur student media at Cabrini University in Radnor. I know you used to live here. So there are many people who are thinking about you now. My name is Professor Callahan. I'm sitting here with Lachey Smith, reporters Jacob Pagan, Ryan Chabinski, and other members of our staff. So with our parting words, I just wanted to say, God bless you and be safe. And we hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You take
Talking to
care.
you.
You take care.